Okay, so in this video, we're going to be talking about equations with inequalities with absolute values. So just as you can have equations and inequalities, you can have absolute values and inequalities. So we're going to look at what that is and how to be able to go about solving it. So as it says here though, the very first bit of rules is solve exactly like a normal absolute value equation, which you solve basically like any regular equation in terms of doing all the addition or subtraction first, multiplication or division, etc., etc. Except when you get down to making the two equations in your absolute values, and if you're uncertain how to do that, please watch the previous videos. But when you finally get down to solving the absolute value and creating your two equations of its possibilities, one of them is going to be identical to the original problem, and the other one is going to have a flipped inequality sign and change its actual positive or negative sign. So traditionally, when you have your absolute values, you set it equal to both the positive and negative version of your answer. This one is going to say, well, not only going to do that where you are going to make a positive or negative version of your answer depending on what it is, but the essential part is that you flip the inequality sign. So if you had an absolute value that looks like this, traditionally you would just do a positive 6 and a negative 6 is what that value would equal. But since we're not dealing with an equation, we're dealing with an inequality, you're going to do one exactly like the normal problem, and then you're going to do one that you change the inequality sign as well as the actual operation sign, the positive and negative. And then you go back to solving it as normal. So this refers to step number, or letter B, I guess you can say. That's essential. That's number one and the big thing that's different when it comes to solving these. So when you graph it on a number line, you're going to have the two possibilities. You're either going to have x is greater than 2, or you're going to have x is less than negative 10. So either x is greater than 2 or less than negative 10. So your inequality graphing is going to look like this with your open dots here and here, because it is open underneath your greater than and less than sign. So a really important bit of information, should I say, is right here. If you have an absolute value that is greater than a, so kind of like what I got going on up here, where a is a positive number, just like 6 is here, then you're going to end up with a is less than a negative of your answer, or x is going to end up being a greater than the positive version of whatever your answer happens to be here. And so this is where your sign comes into play, and you're going to switch your signs. If this is what you have, and where a is a positive number, then you're going to end up with an answer in a graph that looks something like this, where it's an and situation. and we get our one that's exactly like it, and we get one that has a flipped inequality sign and the opposite sign. When you go to graph these and you get your answers of, and what you'll end up with is -12 is less than x, and x is less than or equal to 4. And that's how you'd write that one. So when you go through and solve these, those would be your two quantities you'd get. -4 here from both sides gives you 4. -4 from both the sides gets you -12. And so x is greater than or equal to -12 and less than or equal to 4. Thus, they're closed dots. So this is a bit of important information that you need to be able to work on solving these. But overall, it's what you've already been practicing with your absolute values. Just remember, when you change this sign from the original, you also have to change the inequality sign from the original. And keep these close and handy in your notes, because they will help you with your future problems. All right, I hope